Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and to today's video. Today's video is probably going to be a bit of a longer one. I'm going to be talking about the radical nephrectomy that I had back in November 2023. If you're here watching this video, chances are you or somebody you know is about to have a radical nephrectomy. If you are the one that's about to be going through this procedure, then I am sorry, but hopefully it does what it needs to for your potential cancer situation that you're facing, and hopefully you'll be able to make a fast recovery and get back on your feet quickly. I wanted to share this video today to kind of provide some insight to what it's like having a nephrectomy, and for those of you who might be supporting somebody who's going through it, hopefully maybe this will be a little helpful to kind of guide you through what you can do to support somebody who's going to be undergoing this procedure. So because my memory is a little foggy from the actual procedure itself, my partner Megan will be joining me today for this video just to kind of give her experience and account of, what it was like being in the hospital for the recovery, and also, what exactly the surgery and the procedure entailed and leading up to the actual procedure. Because she was around for all of that. And I kind of mentioned in my last video that a lot of the times through these appointments, you don't retain a lot of this information being the actual patient yourself. So I recommended it's always good to have somebody with you, whether it's a friend or a loved one or a caregiver, to come with you to these appointments. So that way they can help you ask any questions you might have for your doctor, and also to help you kind of retain any information or ask questions on your behalf, because obviously, these are tough conversations to have, and it doesn't always stick with you when you're going through those conversations. So she'll be a great resource through this video, and will be able to kind of help me basically go through everything that we went through together during that time, and hopefully get through, as much detail as possible about the procedure. So stick around till the end. We'll be going through everything that I went through during that surgery, what it was like leading up to the surgery itself, the recovery in the hospital, and then the recovery after the surgery. And I'll give you a full account of what it was like for me. For those of you who don't know, this is Megan. She's my partner. She made her first debut in our video a couple videos ago when we talked about our trip to Halifax. So if you haven't seen that yet, highly recommend it. But this is going to be her second video that she'll be in today, and she's giving me a hand kind of going through what we went through with that surgery back in November 2023 for my nephrectomy. So hello.
Hey everyone. Yep, thank you for having me. I will not be as eloquently spoken as Justin. I don't know how he does this. He is actually a pretty shy person, and then he comes on here and is incredibly well spoken. So I'll do my best. If at any point if it feels like I'm taking over the conversation from him, I really have bits and pieces that I feel like he misses when he recounts these stories. Even sometimes when I watch like his video before edit, sometimes I'm like, oh right, like there was actually this or this or this. So I really want this to be his platform and his space, but anything I can do to help it, I don't know, be more full and more whole, I guess, in terms of the caregiver perspective and trying to support that way. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be great having you to kind of help me recount basically what happens, because, going through the recovery, especially in the hospital, like I was definitely a little bit loopy when we were there. So thank you for, helping me with this, because it's going to be important to recounting everything that happens. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend watching my last video. I'll leave a link for it down in the description. But it kind of picks up where I left off with that video. So this video will be starting with leading up to the surgery, kind of what I went through emotionally, mentally, and like some of the checks we had to do prior to getting the surgery completed. So definitely check that last video out, and then we'll be starting off this one kind of from there. So why don't we quickly talk about kind of our emotions and concerns about the surgery and leading up to it, and what like our biggest fears were entering the surgery. So I think for me, it was obviously like I didn't want to have to go through this big operation and having like my body cut open and losing what was, I mean, obviously it's a vital organ. Like we have
Hmm.
two kidneys for a reason. So like I was scared and I didn't know what that was going to be because obviously with surgeries, there's always the inherent risk of something more major that's going to be
Yeah.
happening. So for me, it was definitely fear about having my body cut open, losing an organ, what that looks like, after the surgery and for longevity of life. So that's kind of what I was scared of, and
Yeah.
just having to go through the 8-week period of recovery. So was there anything you were kind of afraid of? And
Yeah, yes and no. I think I went into this a lot less fearful than you did because at this point in our journey, from the way that we were hearing about it from the surgeon, it was like kind of like a one and done, like we thought, and I definitely thought, like, okay, once the kidney is out and people can live long, healthy lives with one kidney, like it will be okay. And so I remember a lot of the fears that you were talking about were things that weren't even on my radar at all. Like I remember you speaking a lot about like fear of not waking up after the anesthetic. I remember that was like a really big thing for
yeah,
you. You spoke a lot about the autonomy of having to lose a body part. Justin would say things along the lines of, like I have to go through with this. I don't have a choice but to go through with this.
yeah,
I don't want to be doing this, but I understand that I have to. And so we had like a lot of conversations in that phase about like autonomy, trying to make as much choice as we possibly could and have as much control in terms of like the questions we were asking. I myself, I think in that phase was I think I was thinking a lot more rationally at that time. Not
right,
not that you were being irrational, but like I didn't have as much fear in this phase. I think I was more worried about recovery and like how logistically we were going to make that work because I had just started a new position at work. So just having all that, like, I don't know, logistics stuff go on, like that was my fear, I think.
yeah, yeah. And that is a great point. I really was like, it's a very, very anxiety inducing and stressful thing when you feel like I don't have a choice
Hmm.
in what's about to happen. And like when you get told that your whole kidney needs to be taken out, like obviously it needed to be taken out, but I didn't want to go through with that because like again, it was a big surgery and I feel like I was losing a lot of my autonomy. And so yeah, like I was definitely in my thoughts about that, and I was very, very anxious about the surgery and having to go through with it, and not really like. Of course, I could have said no. I could have said no, but my kidney wasn't working properly. There was cancer building up in my body, so like the kidney had to come out. Like there wasn't any yes or no about it. Like I had to do it. Had I have left it in there, like that would have been just leading to more problems. So
Yeah.
there's just it's a weird feeling when you're told something that you don't really get to have a say in.
Hmm.
It's just it never feels good. So
Yeah, yeah, that was like a huge concern I remember you talking about. And
yeah,
there wasn't even really like a question of, like you're going through this. Like they basically gave us a date and we were going through with it. Like
yeah,
obviously everyone has a choice in their medical things, but I don't even think like it was potentially on our radar to say no. And we wouldn't
yeah.
have. Like
No,
you
we
wouldn't
wouldn't have.
have.
Yeah. So yeah, so we had that appointment like I talked about in my last video with our urologist. He was the same one who did our surgery. And basically, it was about a month from that appointment with him that we were waiting for the surgery. So we had a month in between. Obviously, we were anxious about it, and we were waiting, and we were like having to wait through like we have to wait through getting to the surgery and then also waiting for that biopsy of the actual kidney
Hmm.
and what was going on there and like the mass that was on the kidney. So it wasn't just stress about the surgery, it was stress about like, is this cancerous? Even though it was 95% chance that it was,
Hmm.
like we still had the stress of like,
Yeah.
yes or no, like definitively, is it cancerous? So
We did say a few times, like, could you imagine if we go through all this and it's not cancerous?
yeah,
But then that was like very quickly followed up by like
yes,
we knew it was cancer. Like there
yeah,
was no questions really
exactly.
asked in that
Yeah.
moment. So I think like a big part of that phase was really like preparation based. Justin, rightfully so, was very shell shocked in that time.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I just really wanted to take as much off of him as possible. So I basically updated everyone. Like I called your mom. I think I
Yeah.
called your boss. I called my boss. I let all of our friends know. Like that. I guess this was right after where Justin's last video spoke about. So when we found out the cancer was present, and we kind of were in this phase of needing to prepare everyone and needing to let everyone know what was going on. And that was a really overwhelming time, specifically for me as a caregiver, because everyone means so well and everyone wants to
Yeah.
be so supportive and everybody wants to check in with how you're doing. Just like a tip, I guess, for if anyone else is going through this, as after this moment of updating everybody separately, I started doing this thing where I have like a core group of people that are our closest friends and family, and I update them in kind of one space, in one messaging service, and then I let them share externally if there's ever anything that we want to keep private, which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
I would just let them know. But that pre-surgery, it was a lot of logistics of keeping everyone informed, making sure Justin was feeling okay about like the emotional phase
Yeah.
and kind of getting through it that way.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that because it really was like when you are obviously told you might have cancer and then you have to get surgery, you're just not like thinking like straight like in that period. And so like obviously it also affected you, but you definitely were in a more like clear state of mind than I
Yeah.
was. So yeah, like thank you for taking that on and reaching out to people because it was a huge part of getting ready for that surgery and planning and preparing because obviously people needed to know, right? And it really just took a lot off of my plates, like having to worry about, I didn't have to worry about doing that anymore.
Yeah. And that's it. Like I think and the way I handle things might be different than the way you handle things, right? Like if you can't figure out how to update everybody because it's a lot of stress, there's a lot going on, like try to delegate that to the closest people in your life, like use your supports. Like I am a very like problem solving style person when it comes to high stress because it helps my anxiety reduce, but like that might not be the case for you and like there's nothing wrong with that. Also, I think it's like really important to recognize that Justin was not on anxiety meds at this
Yeah.
time. There was a lot of anxiety in this time and space, and neither of us actually
No, yeah, both of us
were
weren't.
medicated for our anxiety at that time. So we didn't have PRNs for these high intense anxiety phases. So I know sleeping was a big deal for us. Getting through those nights was hard. You've always been a bad sleeper in terms of anxiety.
So the last bit of kind of preparing and getting ready for the surgery, we had to go to the hospital to do like a pre-screening with a nurse for the surgery. So just ask some questions about like my general health and history. I also had to fast for I think it was after midnight.
After midnight, yeah.
Yeah, so I had to not eat anything after midnight, and I could only have clear fluids leading up to the surgery itself. So yeah, I couldn't really eat after midnight, which wasn't a big deal because that was fine. But obviously, in the morning, I generally like to eat and have some coffee, which I couldn't do. But I was able to have water, which was obviously nice. And then we also just had to like bring things to the hospital. So things like pair of clothes, comfy clothes, just anything for like entertainment, toiletries, obviously, like I need my toothbrush and stuff. So making sure we had a bag with stuff that we needed. And a little pro tip that's kind of a good idea. Megan always brings kind of like a camping chair to the hospital just because we don't know if we always will get a chair when we're there. And oftentimes, like the chairs in the hospitals, they're very, very uncomfortable. So the chairs that we have that we bring to camping, they're a lot more comfy. So just a little pro tip, might not be a bad idea to bring like a smaller camping chair if you have it. So fast forward to the day of the surgery and kind of the night before. Obviously, you know, I don't think anything ever prepares you really for needing to have this kind of operation done or any operation that's pretty major. So the night before, if I remember correctly, I don't think I slept particularly well, but
I don't think you slept at all.
yeah, I mean, but it's not really a huge deal because I was asleep for basically the entire day afterwards, and I was going to be asleep for quite a while anyways for the recovery period. So I definitely was anxious and stressed, the night before, and obviously in the morning I was very, very anxious, and it just obviously was not something I wanted to do, and I wasn't on anxiety meds like Megan mentioned, so it was definitely a stressful time leading up to the surgery. So when we got to the hospital, there's a bit of a waiting period. I obviously registered with the registration desk, and then basically Megan and I just kind of sat around for 30 minutes maybe.
Yeah, it was busy that morning. I remember there were a lot of people in the waiting room, and like you just go in, like it's just such a high anxiety experience.
Yeah.
Like, Justin is like rightfully so, like having a lot of anxiety, and then I don't know, it's just you never truly know. They prepare you in pre-surgical screening of what it will look like, but it's just a high stress situation. And then
Yeah.
we met with our doctor in the morning. He was very, very comforting. I will always be grateful for the first urologist we saw because he was fantastic. So he came in, he talked us through like what was going to happen, what
Yeah.
the surgery was going to look like. We already knew this information, but just some words of encouragement. I remember him saying to Justin that, like I've done like thousands of these surgeries, like you're going to be okay, you're in good hands. He gave me his personal phone number, which I was so grateful for. I didn't use it, but it was nice to have like the link. And then we got separated, I think, at that point.
Yeah, so they took me, a nurse came to get me. I had to get like an IV in before I went, obviously, and like had to put a hospital gown on. But the nurse took me to the operation room, and I remember like when we were saying bye, and it was like a very painful moment for me because it's hard when you're basically naked, it's kind of cold, and you're walking to like this operation room, which like wasn't that close by. It wasn't far, but it took like a couple minutes to get to that room. But yeah, like it was, it was intense, and it didn't feel good having like my main support person not being able to come with me to the operation room when I was like in the highest like anxiety state possible. But like Megan said, our urologist at the time is so kind and very warm and caring. When I got to the operation room, the anesthesiologist was also so caring and tried to make sure I was as comfortable as possible. So, I just am really thankful for both of them trying to make sure that everything was as comfortable as possible for us because for me, I guess, because I think I was, yeah, like I was just in a state of like panic and anxiety, and it just didn't feel right or good. And I wish I could have had Megan there with me, but obviously she can't be in the operating room with me. So it was really nice having her, or having the anesthesiologist there as well, kind of comforting me and making sure that I knew like I was safe and that I would be okay.
Yeah. I think it's important to note as well, because this was a laparoscopic surgery, Justin did not need an epidural this time around. He was just going to be on oral and injectable hydromorphone for pain management. So there was no stresses with regards to getting an epidural. And yeah, I think that was kind of the main thing. Like Justin was so panicked, but in both surgeries that we experienced, like the separation of that, and it's really hard for. Oh, I touched the mic.
It's okay.
True that. Yeah, it's really hard for a caregiver in those moments, because just watching the sheer terror, it was sheer terror both times, separating, and that they're going to be fine. I guess my biggest fear going into this was what if there's an infection afterwards?
Yeah.
But there was no questions asked that I would see him in a few hours. So yeah it was high stress.
Yeah. So after being brought to the operation room and having the doctors kind of, get my IVs hooked up with everything I needed and my anesthetic, they were obviously getting ready to do the procedure. So for those of you who don't know, a nephrectomy is obviously, well, not obviously, but it's the removal of either your entire kidney or a portion of it. So I got a radical nephrectomy, which is the entire kidney plus some surrounding tissue and sometimes like the adrenal glands and the ureter. But they took, so the radical nephrectomy is the entire kidney and a partial is your partial kidney. I had a radical where my entire kidney was removed. My ureter was left and they clipped it off, and I think they left the adrenal gland as well. Yeah, so they took the entire kidney, and my urologist also took a couple of lymph nodes in the surround, like right next to the kidney, because he said that they felt a little inflamed. So he said that's not normal practice to do that, but because of the way they felt, he thought he would anyway. So the lymph nodes were also taken along with the kidney.
Yeah, and we were grateful for that because had those lymph nodes not been taken, Justin would have been stitched up after the nephrectomy. We would have had to wait X amount of months for a scan, typically 3 months, and then those lymph nodes would have been cancerous anyways, because they did come back as cancer.
Yes,
I guess.
they did. Yeah.
I guess, what is that called? Spoiler. Spoiler alert. Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, so he took the whole kidney out. The operation was completed laparoscopically, like Megan mentioned before. So it's just 3 incisions that were done on my right flank, and then the one larger one was where the one larger incision was where the kidney was taken out. And the approximate length of the surgery, I think it was around 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, because when we separated around 8:30, I think. So the surgery was, about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours. I left the hospital at that time and updated everybody just with how things had gone. I had 2 friends waiting for me and with me for the day. We just talked, cried, had stress, had laughs, all of the things. I was updating specifically Justin's mom, my family too, but Justin's mom, she tends to worry about her pretty little princess here.
Who's that wonderful girl? Could she be any cuter?
So I was keeping her in check and up to date. And then I got the call around 1 p.m. that everything went well. The doctor told me about the additional lymph nodes that were taken. I think he kept calling you a rock star in that phone call, which made me laugh. And I was like very, very high stress at that moment. So it was just good news all around. The surgery went great, and that Justin would be in recovery for about 3 hours. It was a little bit awkward because I was like, okay, like, what do I do? Do I come at 4? Do I come at whatever? Like, and he was like, yeah, just like go to this floor at this time. And when I first got there, they put me in a private room, and I was like, this is gonna be nice. Private room is gonna be sweet. But then they quickly kicked me out of that room and said, just kidding, he's not going to be in this room. So then I waited around until about 6:30 when I finally saw you. But I think you just took a little bit longer in recovery than they expected.
Right, yeah. So it's funny, I actually don't remember what it was like waking up for the first time and actually like being, I guess, like cognizant of what was going on around
you were
me.
Like so loopy. Like,
yeah.
Even when I saw him at 6:30 and he got wheeled into the room that we were staying in, like he was so out of it. I just remember, maybe you remember this, but when they wheeled you into the room, they had to transfer you onto the bed. And listen, Justin's a big guy. I think he's, what are you, like 6'2", 220 or something?
Like almost 230 pounds, yeah.
Yeah, big boy. So when they transferred him onto the other bed, like from the bed to bed, you like really screamed out.
I think I remember that, yeah. I think I remember that being pretty painful.
Yeah.
And then I think also, because I think I saw a picture just now, like I think one of the first things I did was have a popsicle. I think I remember it being really, because I hadn't eaten since basically like 24 hours prior since like dinner the night before, right? So it was a really long time and I couldn't have anything to eat. And so the popsicle was the first thing I had in about 24 hours. And I remember it being incredible.
Yeah. I think later you asked for another one, and like the most like precious little, like you were like, you think I could have another one?
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Justin had his popsicle. I remember updating everyone because, again, like everyone is just so curious, like how is he, where is he? And given I went to the hospital around 4 and didn't see him until 6:30, I was getting like tons of messages up in that time, being like, where is he? Where is he? It was like the hunt for Justin. But yeah, so yeah, the popsicle was the first kind of memory for you then, I guess.
It
That's
was
crazy.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like there's really no way of like sugarcoating this for those of you who are about to go through this, or like whoever's about to go through it, but the recovery sucked. Like it, especially being in the hospital, it sucked. Like I mean, obviously it's going to, like there's, it's not good in any sense when you have like a major operation completed, but the first thing that really sucks about it was being in a ward. So for those of you who don't know, a ward is basically a larger room where you have multiple patients staying in. So it wasn't just me in my room. There were 3 other gentlemen who were in the room with me, and unfortunately, because they were quite a bit older, probably like, pushing late 50s, 60s. They're stubborn old men, they're kind of loopy, and they're just causing all kinds of mayhem for the nurses. And it just wasn't conducive to, a good healing environment for me. So in, in the future, if I had to do that again, and we did do it for the second surgery, and I recommend this to you if you have benefits or if it's possible, try to get a private room, because it's just, it's not nice being with other people in there. And like Megan said, I am a very like private person, so like I like to have a room for myself. It's just a lot better for healing, and I feel more comfortable when it's just me in there. And also just having our own private time together, like it's just nice kind of being able to do our own thing and not having to worry about like who's around us and what's going on with us in the room.
Yeah, the ward was terrible. If you have the means, when we went into our second surgery, we were like, we'll pay like whatever it costs. And we had people like willing to support us as well. Luckily, I did have insurance to cover the room the second time, but the ward was a lot. It was a lot for Justin. The men in there were something else. We had the man right next to Justin, like would always like pull across the curtain and like stare at him and stare at us. And when I'd ask him to stop, he just like would stare at me. We laughed. I mean, I laugh about it now, but it was traumatic then. Like, a lot of their wives would come during the day, shift change. The men, we would refer to it as witching hour, because
it was crazy.
They were crazy. Like they just those jokes that you see about like them deciding to just like get up and walk even though there's like a fall order for them. Like it's really is something else.
It was crazy. Like these guys, it just, oh my gosh, it was wild. Like, I guess I can laugh about it now, but then it was like I was already in so much pain, and like I didn't want to be in the hospital at all. And then like I had to like deal with these guys being around, and then like the guy beside me constantly like pulling the curtain over and like peeking over at us. It's like, please just leave me alone. Leave us alone. Like I don't want anything to do with you. And so
and then like separate of that too, like, it's already hard enough in the hospital having being hooked up to a million machines that are all beeping. But then when there's 3 other people in your room and all their machines are beeping, and, the doctors come in the morning for their rounds, like there really just is no time for rest, I feel like. And there was one guy, do you remember the guy that like talked on his phone so loudly?
Oh my God, yeah.
He talked on his phone for like 2.5 hours from like 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and he would just like scream on the phone.
Like I really couldn't get rest. Like the one thing I needed for like recovery, and I couldn't get it because these guys were just constantly doing something that was so irritating. So I highly recommend private room. If I were to like have to do any of this again, always private room. Like it's just way better for recovery. So
while recognizing that not everyone has the means to do so, and like if we had to do the ward, we would, but I would attempt to crowdfund some money for a private room if possible. And also, like, Ontario healthcare is it needs some work done, and so sometimes private rooms are hard to come by. Like on the cancer wing, they reserve their private rooms for people with very high or low white blood cell count. Low white blood cell count. So in that case, like a semi would have been an option as well. So anyways, just a thought.
Yeah, and so again, like the whole process of like recovery in the hospital sucks, and like my pain levels were obviously like being managed as well as they could be with hydromorphone and acetaminophen. There was one day where I think I had a slight overdose of hydromorphone, and like that kind of scared me. So from there on out, I wanted like the minimum amount of hydromorphone I could take. But like I obviously was in a lot of pain because I just had like 3 incisions on my body and my kidney was missing. And they wanted me up and walking immediately, like the day after the surgery. So like that itself was also painful because it was hard for me to kind of stand up straight. Like I couldn't do that, and that was painful. So like it's definitely going to be painful. Like I don't want to sugarcoat it. Like I was in a lot of pain, and like the hydromorphone and the acetaminophen, like I was on around the clock, and as much as the hydromorphone, it doesn't scare me per se, but like, I don't want to feel like I did when I had that like slight overdose again, because I felt really, really messed up.
I feel like that needs a little explanation. So Justin was on like, I think 4 times daily, maybe every 4 hours or 5 hours, an oral hydromorphone. And then if he needed an additional pain boost, they would give him what's referred to as a breakthrough, which was an additional injectable of hydromorphone one of them was injectable and one of them was oral. It doesn't matter. And so he had taken his breakthrough, and within like 30 minutes was just so vacant, so despondent. Like he would like wake up and he was so loopy and so intense. And that was the hardest day for me personally in the hospital, because this is before we learned the camping chair trick. So I was in this like really tight space in the ward with the chair. That man's grabbing at the curtain. Justin just seems so unwell. I remember the doctors came around at like 2 p.m. and were trying to talk to Justin, and he just he couldn't even keep his eyes awake. And I remember there was one urologist who wasn't our primary urologist, but we got to know her a lot. And she was like, "Oh, he's like so despondent today. Like, what's going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." And then they started talking about, "Oh, maybe a reversal is needed for like the hydromorphone so that like he doesn't like feel this way." And I remember our urologist like so casually was like, "Maybe he had like a mini stroke. Maybe he's had a stroke." And I was like, ugh. And then they were just like, "Man, we'll just wait." And I was like, "Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean?" So like, I remember that was like, I couldn't, then like Justin's not talking to me well. And then I'm like, "Did you have a stroke?" So it was horrible. So it was not.
That wasn't a good day. Yeah. Obviously the pain meds help a lot, but there is such a thing as obviously maybe too much. So, it's obviously everybody's body handles it differently, but that one day I had in the hospital was not great for either of us. So.
And that created a lot of anxiety for Justin, because then for the rest of the hospital trip, he'd be like, "I'm in a lot of pain, but I don't want to overdo it." And, like that, it was like kind of like a new anxiety unlocked in that context.
Unfortunately, Yeah, and like a big thing too, that was like kind of a nuisance for me. Like, I had a catheter in for, I think the first night, and then did they take it out the next day? They took it out already the next day. And for the rest of the hospital trip, because I think how long were we in there? We were there for
5 days total.
5 days,
They wanted the catheter out on the second day because they needed Justin to be up and walking. And the reason for that is they don't want blood clots to form, so no strokes happen. So they wanted him up and moving, and then the catheter came out.
Yeah, so they took the catheter out, but I had a very, very hard time the entire time I was in the hospital trying to pee normally. It got to the point one day where, you know, like it was so bad and I was trying so hard to pee and it just wouldn't come. And
So the catheter comes out in the morning, and then as the day goes along, Justin's having a hard time peeing.
Yeah.
Not impossible to pee, but was having a tricky time. The night nurse did not want him to have difficulties overnight, so she recatheterized him. This was incredibly traumatic for Justin. I don't think the nurse, and listen, I have nothing but support for all of the nursing staff. We love you guys. But I don't think this nurse was particularly well versed in catheterization. We also found out later that maybe this is TMI, but Justin's urethra has a small bend in it that's not completely.
oh, right,
You can't visibly see it from the like external of his body, but internally, I suppose that's so. Maybe that gave her some grief, and that was really hard. Justin was very traumatized by the recatheterization. I remember just like trying to talk him through and like kind of hugging him, and he was like truly weeping, like crying.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
It was very traumatic, yeah. And like I obviously never want to get a catheter in again because it was a lot to deal with.
The next day, the evening catheter was removed, and we were now battling a few things. One, when a catheter is in for an extended period of time, the body kind of loses its proprioception, which is like the brain-body connection to recognize that you have to pee and signal to your body that you have to pee.
Yeah.
So we were dealing with that. We were dealing with the potential of blood clots, and we were dealing with urethra trauma because of the multiple catheterizations that happened. So the next day, Justin was really finding it very difficult to avoid any amount of urine, and urine was collecting. So the urologist this day noted that the bladder might need to be irrigated because these clots might be blocking the flow of urine from happening. At this point, I looked up like how much the average male bladder could hold because I was watching them do ultrasounds, and you could see the liquid in his body. And it was around, I think, 700 milliliters, if I remember correctly, around 700 milliliters of liquid to be able to hold. And the urologist said to us, you are likely going to need a bladder irrigation, which Justin was horrified about because that means an additional and larger catheter was going to go in, and they basically flush water out so that the blood clots can travel down this thicker catheter. So basically all day Justin's needing to pee. We were probably in and out of that bathroom like, what, 40 times?
Oh my God, I was in the bath. Yeah, like it was crazy how often I was getting. I mean, it was probably a good thing, I guess, that I was constantly getting up and moving, but I mean, that in itself too, like, yes, I had to be moving, but maybe not that much. And like, I was constantly trying to pee and it just
wasn't working.
It wasn't working. Yeah.
And at this point, they wanted to track all the urine output. And so we're trying to pee into like what do you call those things? Like a urinal, like a little plastic urinal. And Justin would sometimes be able to get a little bit out, and then he peed out a couple blood clots, which were very gross and very disturbing to look at. And that was hard to kind of watch you go through because the feeling of them coming out was
doesn't feel right.
Horrible.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the urologist had told us you're very likely going to need to get your bladder irrigated. So if and when it becomes unbearable, get them to page me, and I will come up and I will personally do the irrigation because we told them of the trauma of the catheterization.
Yeah.
She knew we were really stressed about it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Did you have any? Sorry, were you about to add any more?
Yeah, unless you want to.
No. Go ahead.
So all day the bladder was getting fuller and fuller. The ultrasound was happening. I could see that the milliliters were getting up to like 650, 690. I knew paging was going to take forever, but the nurse on call kept saying like, your bladder's not distended. It's not distended. Like, it's fine. And this was a very intense learning experience for me because I was watching my partner in pain. I understand how overwhelmed the staff are, and I don't want to be a bother, but this is I think they thought that I was asking to see the doctor without the realization that she said, page me when you're ready, basically. And I think the nurses were basically trying to tell me to like chill out and like don't. And I remember there was like a very serious point where I was like, get the urologist right now because like I couldn't listen to you. And of course at that moment I think you got like something like 150 milliliters out in a big cloth or something. But we did the irrigation at that point, which was awful, but I think that catheterization was a lot easier.
It was a lot easier because she did a really good job. Like, as disturbing as it sounds, she put a ton of lube on the catheter compared to the nurse like the night before. So yeah, it went in a lot smoother, but like it still wasn't a pleasant experience. So
yeah, that was the trauma of the irrigation.
Yeah, I think overall, like the worst part of the hospital stay was definitely like the ward, but also all of the peeing issues. But the worst thing is like for almost 2 years now, like actually every single time I go to the washroom to go pee, I am scared that I'm not going to be able to go pee. Like it was that bad, and I can still remember what it felt like, how bad it was, and I just wouldn't wish that on anybody because it really was horrible. Aside from that, like, yeah, it wasn't great being in the hospital, but it wasn't like the worst thing. But the peeing was an issue, and like the ward itself was not great.
Yeah, and we also, I think our urologist originally, and listen, we love him to death, but he did have the tendency to sugarcoat, I think, a little bit. When we were first going in to do the pre-surgical stuff, he said, like, yeah, like you guys will probably be in for about 2-3 days.
Yeah.
And so that's what we prepared for, you know, like even in all of the anxiety leading up to it, I was like, oh, just 2 days, just 2 or 3 days. That's it. We'll be home. And when all this catheterization stuff and peeing problems were happening, that was the direct thing that was keeping us from going home. So I also think it was a big mental game for you.
Yeah, it was tough because like I was every single day, like I feel like counting the hours, and like I wasn't sleeping well because of the ward, and like, you know, thank you so much for staying for so much of the time because like it helped obviously me with my days with Megan being with me. She pulled some crazy shifts. Like I don't know if your caregiver will be able to do that for you. Hopefully they will, but like it meant so much to me to have her with me like for basically the entire day. But then like, you know, like not to like guilt trip you in any sense, but like I always dreaded when you were going to be leaving at nights, and like I didn't sleep well at nights, and like I'd be counting down the hours and the minutes until you'd be back the next morning, and like I just needed my person with me. Like it was, I can't tell you how important it is to have like a loved one or like a caregiver with you, just to even be there with you, because it's just not something you want to do alone in the hospital. It's really, really tough.
Especially with like the drugs involved. Like there were so many points and so many doctors coming through. Like people can't consent. People can't truly understand what's happening in their medical decisions, at least for the degree of surgeries that we've been through. So the more you can be with your loved one and the more you can have someone, if you're not there, be with them, like it's really critical. And on this, like I obviously knew how stressed out you were leaving. Justin doesn't ask for much, but I remember he would be very much like, okay, like what time do you think you're gonna come back tomorrow? And like, and I could tell that there was a lot. And as somebody that loves to care for people, obviously I love to care for you as well. There was a lot of mental turmoil for me as well to do even longer shifts, and to sometimes I did think about like staying overnight, and you can't do that. Like there is a limit. Pull the shifts, pull the long shifts. But had I not come home and rested, there's no way. There's no way. So you know your limits, but really you need rest too if you're caring for somebody.
Definitely. So yeah, on the 5th day, we finally, you know, they deemed us well enough to kind of go. So like our care team, I think they did some vitals, and then they gave us a little package saying like, you know, if you notice like infection starting, like any swelling or whatever, like if you get any fever, like come right back to the hospital. So yeah, they gave us that package and we kind of went on our way. I remember being so happy when I got home. It just felt so nice to be back. We were back with like our kitties here at home and just in the comfort of our own like home and bed. It was just nice to be back, and I was so happy. Like it
Yeah.
was just way too long of a stay. Like in my mind, it felt like an eternity in the hospital. So I was happy to be home. But you know, like I want to say thank you to like obviously all of our friends and family for what they did for us while we were in the hospital, but also like helping us prepare to be at home, like meals and stuff, and just like gifts to help me recover at home. So thank you all. You know who you are. Like we really, really appreciate it. But yeah, it felt amazing to kind of get home and just be in our own space.
Yeah, there's truly, truly, truly not enough words. All the people that helped to organize all those meals, to the friends that were far away from us and couldn't cook for us. I'm gonna get emotional talking about this. They couldn't cook for us. You guys sent us like a million gift cards and stuff. Like we were so well supported. Even when we first got home from the hospital, they had little like oodies for us, which are basically like blankets that you can wear.
Yeah,
For
very
those of
comfy.
you that don't know, like it really was like for truly 1 full month after we got out of surgery, we did not have to worry about a single dinner. And that was the biggest thing for us because
Yeah, it was huge.
like especially me, like I was reeling from like the intensity of the hospital, and like you kind of are shell shocked when you get home. Like there really is no gas left into the tank, so to
Yeah,
speak. Like
yeah.
Justin was having a really hard time navigating the house.
Mm-hmm.
We have stairs, and our bathroom and bedroom are up on the top floor, and the living room's down here. So truly, like our friends and family, like you guys obviously know how much we care for you.
Yeah.
But if you have someone in your life who's going through surgery, like the best thing you can do for them, in my opinion, is support them with food and like breaks, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely was a huge, huge help having all those meals kind of readily available, and just getting like Uber Eats gift cards and stuff like that, because it just took a lot off our plates and made life a lot easier for us, which was really, really great. But yeah, it was nice being home. You know, it was nice to be back in our own bed. But with that being said, like in the hospital, I was having a hard time sleeping because of the ward, but also I'm a side sleeper. And because I had the surgery kind of on my right flank, I couldn't like sleep on either of my sides, and it was hard for me to sleep on my back. So being at home was nice, but I still wasn't getting a lot of sleep, which I needed for my recovery. I was trying to sleep downstairs on the couch, which I did for a bit because it was a little more comfy than the bed, and then I went back to the bed. So it was a hard time trying to navigate that, but you know, it obviously it got better with time. But I was just happy to be home. It was nice to be home and being back in our own space, and yeah, like it just was good to be back. So
Yeah, and Justin was really able to. So it's interesting, like watching what the human body can do. Like, you know, the first time he moved up the stairs, like terrible. He needed so much support. He needed so much help. But then, like even the next day, it was like exponential growth.
yeah.
And that's really how it was with everything. Sitting down on the couch, getting up, getting into bed, getting comfortable, making meals for himself. It's like you really picked up those, like, I guess I'll call them skills, but
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, it did come back quickly, like rough at first, but it came back quickly. And the whole like recovery period was supposed to be 8 weeks in total. I did take a little longer than that, but by 8 weeks, it was mostly fine. But what I was finding was after the 8 weeks, like I was still having pain in my incision areas. It was hard for me to do like physical activity, like even walking like not that far distances was still kind of difficult. So yeah, like it was an 8 week period to kind of try and get back on my feet and getting back to normal again. I couldn't lift anything over, I think, 10 pounds for that 8 week period. So it was really like making sure I moved around enough, but not doing too much to overexert myself during that 8 week period. So
And one of the kitties, I don't think either of the kitties were 15 pounds.
No.
But anyways, Justin Justin, like if he's told to do something in a regimen, he's doing it. Like if it said drink 4 glasses of water exactly a day, like he will do it. And he was very serious about that 15 pounds. And so he didn't lift, you're not supposed to have favorites, but the favorite cat of his, and the favorite cat of his in the house, he didn't lift her for 8 weeks. And I remember the first time he lifted her up after, which I think was like on the day of 8 weeks.
Like on the
And
day.
he just, I think you cried. I do
Probably,
think, you were
yeah.
like so emotional.
Yeah.
So anyways, there were lots of cat cuddles, but only
Yeah.
when she came to him, obviously.
Yeah, it was definitely an emotional time being in the hospital, and also like the recovery period, what being back home. But yeah, it eventually came through, and I got through it, but it wasn't great. But I also luckily didn't have to kind of, at least for this surgery, there was no like dietary concerns. Our doctor said like maybe like ease up on like salt intake, but for the most part, I was able to kind of eat whatever I needed to. I wasn't eating. I don't think I was eating a ton, maybe because my stomach was still off, and like my bathroom, I guess, habits were disrupted, obviously. So yeah, it needed a bit of time before it kind of got back to normal. But dietary wise, there wasn't anything kind of crazy. And now that I'm all through it, it's living with one kidney has been pretty normal. Like I haven't noticed really any bizarre changes. Like I've been living fine. It's been okay. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the major things are not the physical things. Like Justin can navigate well, even after your second surgery. Like body wise, fine. It's really like the emotional turmoil I think that's occurred from the whole thing.
Emotional, damn it!
Obviously, like urinating lots of blood up until this point, having the urination challenges in the hospital. I think that is long-lasting impact for you.
Yeah.
And I think like when our story progressed like over time and we found out that we were switching to like medication-based treatment as opposed to surgery-based treatment, like as horrible as it is, we also were grateful to not have to do any more surgery.
Yeah,
it's
very
a
grateful.
huge toll on
It is.
the body, the mind, the family unit, the friend unit, everyone. So yeah, I think those would be the more long-lasting impacts than day-to-day life.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and I would say just some tips for going through this and recovering. Do make sure you are moving around as much as you can and trying to gain your strength back. Follow whatever care package you've been given by your care team. And listen to your body, I guess I would say is really important. What you're feeling, and listening to your body is super important. So definitely try and make sure you're moving around as much as possible, but don't overdo things and also don't underdo things. So that's kind of I guess my advice is just follow what you've been told by your doctors or nurses to do when you get home, because it's definitely important for making sure you recover properly.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's very fair, and slow and steady experiences, right? There'd be times I think in Justin's recovery where he would want to be doing too much too fast because getting up and making a meal doesn't seem like the most strenuous thing when you're typically able-bodied and don't have any health ailments, but that would really take a lot out of him, and it was just about learning those limits and being flexible with them, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that kind of covers most of the process. If anybody has any questions, comments for us, let us know down in the comment section. Be happy to answer. But yeah, the surgery itself, while it went smoothly, the hospital stay wasn't the greatest, but the recovery period back at home went smoothly, I'd say as well. But yeah, I'm so sorry if you're about to go through this, because obviously it's not an ideal situation. But again, like I've always said, if you need anything, please let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to talk things through with you, provide any advice, recommendations. If there's anything else you want to know about what to expect from this kind of surgery, let us know. We're more than happy to answer. But yeah, I think that's kind of all we have today for that. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of say about it? Or?
No, my highlights truly would be this is a big deal. Surgeries are big deals. And as much as we care for our loved ones and we need to support them, caregivers need the support in order to lift other people up. So like Justin said, like if anyone has specific questions about the process or the mental space or like what you could even do to support others, like we're happy to answer those questions because you kind of don't have the hindsight, I guess, until you go through it, and then really. But we're probably missing things, even though this video, I'm sure, is long.
There's a lot of stuff that went into it, though, and that we experienced. So again, if you have any questions, please let us know. But otherwise, leave a like if you've found today's video interesting and informative. I hope that we maybe made it a little easier for you if you're going into this operation. Please also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps us grow as a community because I want to make sure that we're helping as many people out as possible that have kidney cancer or facing these kinds of operations. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.